Well, hello everyone. Darren Saul here, back again for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. It's episode 164 with the lovely Lorrie Brook. Hello, Lorrie.
Hello, Darren. How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Beautiful.
How are you going?
I'm going well, in lockdown here in Sydney, and I believe you're the same over there.
Yep,
But we're getting through what we have to do and see what happens.
that's it. And online's a beautiful thing.
And online is a very beautiful thing. Thank God for technology.
Yes.
Now, everyone out there, we've got a great show. Lorrie is a family law mediator, and we're going to be chatting all about the fact that thoughts aren't fact. So, Lorrie is a family law mediator who helps individuals resolve their parenting and property disputes in a safe and comfortable manner. With over 15 years of experience in the family law industry, Lorrie helps remove the shame and embarrassment that come with a relationship breakdown. Instead, Lorrie provides a safe and comfortable space online so that people can focus on creating an agreement that works the best for them and their family. So welcome, Lorrie.
Thank you, Darren. That was a beautiful introduction.
Yes. Now, sounds like you would have seen it all by now. 15 years dealing with disputes. My God.
Yep, I've
You
seen
have seen it
everything.
all. So tell us how you got into this in the first place.
Pure, I think at the very first instance of it was pure luck, really,
Right.
because, I was studying law and I went, well, I've got to try and get a job in this area now. So where do I go? And I got work experience with a family lawyer
Okay.
and started there and absolutely loved it. And I made it I suppose, my mission at that particular point in time. She did a lot of work representing children, and I went, that's what I want to do.
Hmm.
And so I focused on getting that, and I got that. And then I went, now I want to focus on helping these kids stay out of these disputes. We don't want to be in court representing kids. We want them to be happy and,
Yep.
away from the disputes. So then, I kind of just deviated and looked at other ways I can help people.
Fantastic. And you've never looked back.
Never looked back.
Never looked back. And you're practicing mainly online from
Yeah,
home.
yeah. I do a lot of mediation. So I actually live in Central Queensland now, and
Right.
being in Central Queensland, you have to travel a long way to get anywhere.
Yep.
But technology is wonderful.
It is. Zoom is amazing.
Certainly is.
Now, fascinating point. What percentage do you think of cases get solved outside of court?
Quite a number. It's only a small percentage, is
Right.
a small percentage of disputes that actually end up in court.
Oh,
It's
that's
just
good.
they're the ones that we hear all about. They're the ones that people talk about,
Yep.
and they're the ones that the media grab hold of.
Yep.
When you've got those high profile cases, but that's really only the tip of the iceberg. For the most part, parents or couples can resolve their disputes outside of court, and they will. And our system's set up to facilitate that, which is a fabulous thing.
Awesome. I mean, that's great. And I mean, we were chatting just briefly before we started about the fact that, mediation is a journey. It's a journey to build trust. And so I'd love to get into that in a bit more detail. But before we do, I just want to chat about the title for this episode. Thoughts aren't fact. Now, I love this. Tell us, what this means to you. Why do we seem to fall into this trap? How does it affect what you do?
Look, thoughts aren't fact. And this is something that I try and teach a lot of the people that come and work with me, because what I find is that as humans, our self judgment is huge.
Mhm.
And we always think the worst of ourselves. And that then also leads us to think that others are thinking the worst about us. And so then we approach a situation and we've already gone into it thinking, they don't like me, they're angry at me, they can remember something that, is huge in my mind, but in reality, they've got no recollection of it at all.
Right,
And then we go into that thinking that that's what's happening.
right.
And that just spirals the situation from
So,
there.
so we carry that baggage into the dialogue, into the
Yeah.
mediation.
Yep, we do. But we carry it into any relationship that we
Yep.
have. I think this is the best thing in terms of the work that I do. I focus on helping people through that separation and divorce process,
Yep.
But these tools can be used across all of our relationships.
Hmm. Absolutely. Definitely. I mean, when it comes to how we think and our internal dialogue, this
Yeah.
affects every part of our life.
Yep. Absolutely.
But
Very much so.
you just get to see the brunt of it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think for me, it's one of those, we all have those moments where something, that we consider to be embarrassing or humiliating, or those moments where you just think, oh, open up and swallow me whole.
Yeah.
And we can remember exactly who was there when that happened. We can remember all the little details around it. And we think that everyone that witnessed that will remember that until the day we die, but they don't.
No, that's right. And so what do you do when people are coming to see you or you have an appointment to see people? Is there a way that you get them into the right frame of mind before they enter that discussion, enter that conversation? Anything that you do for that?
For me, it's all about going, I suppose, getting to the core of it. So asking them what they think, but also why they think that. Talking about, if you ask the question why is a big one that I just keep asking, because eventually they'll stop and they'll just look at you and go, maybe that's not right. Maybe I've made that assumption.
Yeah.
And I've made that into something. And maybe I then need to ask the question, is this actually the case?
Is this the case?
Yep.
I mean, it's almost borderline marriage counseling to a degree.
Yeah, except these people aren't getting back together.
They're not getting is there never any example when after you do mediation, they say, you know what, let's just stay together for a little while?
Not that I'm aware of. I've never had one where they've got back together, or at least they've never told me they've got back together. So,
fair enough. Okay, fantastic. So tell us a bit more about what you do exactly, how you do it. Do you work with any particular niche within that field?
I suppose the work that I do goes across all of the family law spectrum. So I help those parents from a high conflict status who have been through the court process. I help parents who are going through the court process, and then I help parents who are, who have just separated.
Right.
A lot of the work I do is on helping parents navigate the co-parenting relationship that they have, whether that be at the start of the journey or at the end of the journey. And the work that we do can be from mediation, it can be from conflict coaching, and it can be from just, giving them communication tools or parenting programs for them to work through. It depends on their individual needs at the end of the day. It's not a one-size-fits-all model.
Wow. So, I mean, that's very extensive. You really deal with a lot of different facets of that relationship or that point in the relationship. It's not just let's get the deal done so we can separate. There's so much more to it than that.
There is. And I think for me, the reason I do this is because I started it with the thought of I need to help the children. And I want the children to be free of the conflict that's between the parents.
Yep.
So I started off by thinking, well, this would work. And for me, that was the communication platform. And then I realized, well, that's only helping a small portion of children. So what else can I do? So then I added something else and went, well, that's helping more, but it's still not helping everyone. And so I think for me, it's how can I help as many families as I possibly can with the services that I provide.
Wow. And you do this just on your own, or do you have a team as well?
So I do the majority of it, but I have a great team behind me.
Nice.
We're only as good as the team.
Absolutely. So a lot of people that kind of work freelance with you or part of your
a lot
as well?
of freelancers, but they're that's the administrative,
Sure.
technical, marketing side,
Operational side of stuff.
Yep. The guts of it is me.
Wow. And do you find that when you are in the mediation process, do you have to deal with many other people from the family, or is it just the two people, the partners?
For me, it's generally just the parents,
Right.
but it can involve grandparents as well.
As well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There's a lot more cases these days of grandparents, having that or feeling like they're losing that contact or that relationship with the grandchildren and wanting to maintain that.
Yep. And then I suppose, from a legal point of view, because, it's really, it'd be very hard to, always define that line between, guidance and counseling, and then the legal point of view, and the what you have to do from a documentation point of view, and a legal standpoint as to who has jurisdiction over what. You're quite the juggling act, I would assume.
Yeah, look, we've got a very, in the scheme of things, the Family Law Act for Australia is quite easy in that regard. And the role that I play is really just in helping all the parties communicate,
Right.
and also to be heard. I think that's, people can talk and people can listen, but whether they're actually heard and they felt like they have been heard, that makes such a huge difference.
Okay. Wow.
So, yeah.
Fascinating. So what advice would you give people who are, starting to go on this journey, unfortunately? What advice would you give them in terms of how to get a better outcome?
One of the things that I always talk to the people I work with is to look at the situation as a whole and say, this is what I think the issues are. And then ask yourself the question, what would the other person say?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always going to be another side to the story.
Yep. Put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yep. And this process is not about proving you are right.
Definitely.
This is not about making principled negotiations and decisions. Just
no room for stubbornness and pride and ego.
Yeah.
It's more about, the kids.
Yep, absolutely. And, ask yourself if the decision or the position you're taking, is it based on all of that? Is it based on the fact that you're trying to prove that they are wrong and you're right? Yeah. Is it the fact that you want to feel like you've got one up on them?
Yeah. Yep.
Because that's not a good place to come from.
Yeah. Which is difficult. I mean, if someone's been hurt and there's a lot of emotional baggage there, it's not as easy as it sounds to be very pragmatic about things like that.
Absolutely. And I think that's when it becomes a great mediation with a qualified mediator is a great tool, because they can help you work through that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or doing conflict coaching, getting yourself organized first before you approach that conversation can really help.
Right. So in other words, the step before mediation is actually conflict coaching sometimes.
Yeah, look, for some people it is. And, if you can organize, I suppose, get your thoughts organized and your position clarified internally,
I like that.
then you might not need to go to mediation, because mediation isn't mandatory. If you can reach an agreement anyway.
True. Yep.
That you like. Right. But sometimes that conflict coaching can be a great tool to just help you clarify your position and why you've got that position, but also teach you how to listen and hear what the other person has to say at the same time.
So it almost prepares you for the mediation process.
Yep.
And a lot of the times you might find that if you might get involved with conflict coaching on both sides, you might never have to take it further because they'll sort it out on their own.
That's exactly it. And that's what we want, because let's face it, as parents, you're going to have so many hiccups along the way. Children don't follow the perfect roadmap, unfortunately. They will change what they want to do, and they'll want to do sports when it's on your particular day, or, there'll be so many obstacles or little speed bumps, as I call them, come up, and you have to learn to navigate that.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point you brought up. I mean, that's fascinating. How much of the process involves what the kids want? How much of that is taken into account? And how flexible is it moving? Like, if you have an agreement and all of a sudden the kids might decide, oh, we actually want to do things this way, what happens?
Well, that's up to the parents, isn't it?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when the parents come to us, it's a child-focused mediation. Yep. But what the child wants will very much depend on how old the child is. If you ask my 8-year-old, for example, she'll be quite happily fed McDonald's every night for dinner. Am I going to give that to her, on the other hand, is not, is a different story. So what they want depends on why they want it, the influence behind it, their motivation for it, their maturity levels, all of that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so the parents have to use, I suppose, their knowledge of the child, they know their children better than anyone. So
Yeah.
they're the perfect people to be making decisions about their children.
Yeah.
Um, and yet not so many, but there are parents out there who are incapable of reaching that agreement. And then, it goes to court and you've got an independent third party, a judge standing up there, and he or she has to read the information. They'll hear what you have to say in the witness box,
Yeah.
but without knowing your children intimately like you do, they're making a decision.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to follow.
Wow.
So in my view, if you two can put your stuff aside for the sake of your children, there's no one better placed to make a decision.
I love that. It's almost like, the mediation process is getting the parents ready to go on that journey and be flexible forevermore, because they're going to have to be flexible.
Absolutely.
You don't just draw a line in the sand on a piece of paper and say, that's mine, that's yours, and that's it, never changes. It changes constantly.
Absolutely. They're children.
So it's almost like coaching for how to look after each other and how to live with each other for the rest of their lives.
Yep. And that's when I say, our thoughts aren't fact, because at the end of the day, going through all these obstacles, we will be thinking that, a common one for children is that, as they grow up, they start wanting to spend more time with their friends than they do with us.
Yeah.
And then the other parent all of a sudden feels like they're being alienated, or they're, the primary parent is telling the children not to spend time with them, that, they're not fun or whatever. And, so all of a sudden they're thinking, well, he or she's alienating me. He or she's withholding the children from me. And that's a thought that they build up. And then that's, they start acting on that thought. But quite frankly, most of the time, it's just the fact that the kids want to have fun with their friends. They don't want to spend time with the other parent either.
That's right.
It's
or whoever's got the pool table or the pool or the better TV, that's where they go.
Yep.
And
Whoever says yes
the
most.
McDonald's and KFC, that's where they go.
Yep.
He's got the pantry full of chocolates. I'm going there.
But unfortunately, it's as children grow up, there's more and more speed bumps that parents will hit.
Fair enough. So this is almost like a journey in how to learn to think and be flexible and, work together. That's what it's about.
Yep.
Fascinating. And has this 15 years in this area made you a better negotiator, made you a better mediator in other parts of your life, would you say?
I don't know that my husband would agree with that.
Let's bring him in. Where is he?
It's probably made me more mindful of the issues, and it's made me more mindful of my reactions. Equally, when my daughter pushes my buttons, I'm mindful of the fact that my buttons are being pushed and I'm reacting to them. And I'm like, you should not be reacting to this.
Yeah, but it's automatic. You can't help it.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
But it's a work in progress.
Yeah, fair enough. I love that. So I'd love to hear a story or two, if you can, obviously be extremely confidential. It's great always to really explain a situation of how the process unfolded from the A to Z and give people a picture of exactly what you do and, the benefits of this kind of service.
Yeah. I suppose for me, one of the most beautiful situations that I was in was very, very recently. There was parents who were talking about a child who was only 12 weeks old.
Oh,
it was like a brand new baby.
God, you're joking.
Brand new baby. And it was such a beautiful scene to watch. Mum had the baby and we were doing the mediation online, but she had the baby there. And so Dad could see the baby during the whole process. But to watch those two, when they were talking about the decisions, you could see them both looking at this child going, this is what we're making a decision about. This is, this is the impact for these decisions. And that, to me, it was a beautiful mediation. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. The power of that. And I probably had underestimated the power of that before.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that, because the baby or the kid was so young, that was such a powerful force in helping them resolve things properly. I'm sure when people come with kids that are 5 and 7 and 10, maybe not so simple.
No, and it wouldn't be a situation when they're that old to ever have them in the room. But
That's
it
right.
was just, yeah, to have that, I think was such a powerful time for me, and one that I haven't forgotten. But I think more so, one of the other situations that sticks with me was a situation where mum wanted to move away with the children after they had separated,
Yeah.
and dad was, he absolutely, no, they're not moving. I'm going to lose my relationship with the children. I'll never get to see them, and I think there was 3 children in that case. But when we actually started to have the conversations about why he's taking that position, because I'll preface there that dad was a bit of wasn't a FIFO worker, but he flew in and out for his
Right.
work.
Yeah.
So he wasn't always around, and mum's family was interstate.
Yeah.
And, so when we started talking about why he was taking that position, he was just scared.
He just didn't want to, he still wanted to see his kids. He wanted to be in
Yeah.
contact with his kids.
Yeah. He was scared. And so we were able to, talk through that, and mum was able to give him reassurance in, demonstrating other things that she had done,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of made him sit back and go, well, yeah, okay, it's not a bad thing.
Yep.
And again, but that's that, our thoughts aren't fact. He was
That's right.
thinking, mum's moving away. She's cutting the kids off from me. I'm not going to get to see them. That's it. I can say goodbye if they move.
Yep.
But it wasn't the case.
It's almost just expressing, exactly why you're thinking what you're thinking. And it's amazing what can come out of that.
Yep.
Fascinating stuff. It's like negotiation 101 or expression 101, relationships 101. You could write a book.
Yeah, relationships 101, but across the board.
Yeah. And how is Zoom working, in this model? Does it make a difference, do you think, or is it as seamless as if they were in front of you?
It has its moments. I think it works well for the most part. Because what I find is that people can be face to face, just like we are now.
Yeah.
And still be in the comfort of their own home.
Yeah.
Whereas, mediation, traditionally, you come into a very stale, cold office, and have to start to talk about something really personal. It's a very conflicting feeling.
Yeah. And I can imagine, I suppose, as well, that sometimes it actually works better because you're not sitting right next to that person, or you're already wanted to, you're already turning this way and they're turning that way. And if it's on Zoom, everybody's civil. We've got a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, and we're just having a nice, normal conversation. It's not, there's no tension and emotion filled in the room.
That's it. And, you can still have the separate breakout rooms. You don't always have to see each other.
That's right. I love it.
So you still get to have the time to have a bit of a breather.
Awesome. Well done. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my first dive into this topic. I really didn't know much about it.
For me, it's one of those areas that I think I could talk about for hours. But to always bring it back to what can we do to help these children, number one.
Yep. What's the longest mediation you've ever been involved in?
The longest mediation? Probably would have been about 10 hours.
10 hours, that's it?
Yep. I pretty much cut the line off at
10 hours?
Yep.
I thought you were going to say 6 months.
No. So mediations last for the day,
Oh, okay. Just everything's done beforehand and just on the day, let's get it done. And after 10 hours, we're going to walk out of here with an agreement and we're done.
Yeah. I did an online one the other day that lasted for 8. And that's a long time to have people online.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
8 hours.
If they're not focused, if they're not used to looking at a computer screen for 8 hours, it can be very tiring and very, very draining.
Oh my God. Now I know how politicians must feel when they're mediating who knows what, for hours and hours and hours and days.
Yeah, no. We try and keep them short and sweet, because at the end of the day, the mental energy and the emotional energy that it takes is a lot for people, and they've still got to go home and look after kids themselves.
That's right. It must be quite draining for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the end, it was like, oh, enough.
I'm not cooking dinner those nights.
No. That's where your husband steps in.
Yep.
Pre-planning. You got the job to do.
Yeah.
Well done. That's fascinating. So, Lorrie, tell us a bit about how we can find you if we want to take benefit for your services, or if you want to get some information or learn a bit more about what you do.
Yeah, you can jump onto my website. So it's familylawservices.online, and there is a guide to separation and divorce. So if you just do /guide to separation and divorce, you can get all the information there.
Love it. So all there, and you can link out to all your social media handles as well if we need to.
Absolutely. It's all there. Everything's under Family Law Services online.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for doing this today. I'm going to put all those links in the notes for everybody. And it's been a fascinating discussion. Is there anything that you want to leave us with? Any thoughts of wisdom, from coming from 15 years of conflict resolution?
For me, Darren, really, just remember we create our own realities. And so you don't have to believe everything you think.
I like that. So true. Brings us right back to the topic.
Yep.
Thoughts aren't fact, and express yourself, I suppose.
Yeah.
In any situation, but especially in this type of a situation, you have to tell people what you think and how you're feeling.
Yep. And don't make assumptions.
Yeah. Don't make assumptions. The mother of all.
Yes.
Well, Lorrie, thank you so much. That was so much fun. I will make sure that we put all those details in the notes. And for everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to chat to Lorrie or look up her details if you're interested. And we'll see you very, very soon for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks, Lorrie.
Thanks, Darren.
Pleasure.